I am your hair loss daddy. I am your manly mentor. I am your top gun maverick of hair loss. That's who I am. And I'm glad that you're here. We've got work to do. By work, I mean, let's just look at the next random comment that came in today so that I can do a video on it and that I can encourage you as your manly mentor, as your hair loss daddy. Here it is. Okay, so I don't know that the video is called Age 35, Not Balding Yet. Probably won't go bald anytime soon. Now the screen name of this person, I'm going to assume, just really doesn't like tires. Some people just don't like certain things. I don't like popcorn. I hate popcorn. I don't hate many things in life, but popcorn, it smells like rotten feet. And when people eat it and then the kernels get in your teeth, ugh, popcorn's awful. My wife, on the other hand, loves popcorn. She'll eat popcorn right before we go to bed. Like, ugh, popcorn, ugh. So certain people just don't like certain things. Like, I don't like popcorn. I think this guy just doesn't like tires because his screen name is No Rubbers. Like, no tire. Like, surely that's what he means. Here's the comment, quote, I'm 47. So as I'm 38, this guy's 9 years older than me. I'm 47 and probably a Norwood 1.75 to 2.5-ish. So he's saying that he's somewhere between here, which is nothing for a guy that's nearly a decade older than me and he's got more hair than me. Okay, so just to put in perspective. All right, let's get back to this guy who really doesn't like tires. I slowly started to recede with my temples, which is Norwood 1 territory, since my early 20s, which I've been doing that since age 17, and I've got a video to prove it if you've looked it up. No rear back of head thinning, which I've got some if you've ever really noticed it. May not be that obvious in this video. Or no hair loss on both sides of my family. All my uncles on my mom's side had a full head of hair in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Only one was even a Norwood 2, at most in his late 40s on my dad's side. A few of my uncles are Norwood 2s or Norwood 3s. Some of them are in their 70s. My dad, age 72, is a Norwood 2.5. That's what a lot of people say I am. So imagine me being 72, still having as much hair. Which actually, I think my father's father had about as much hair as I do now when he passed away, and he was in, I guess, his late 70s a couple years ago when he passed away. So that was my father's father. My father, or my dad, is age 72 and a Norwood 2.5, but still has thick hair. See, I don't have thick hair. I have thinner hair at this point. He rocks a ponytail. How I look at age 55. So for this guy, he's looking at, 8 years in the future. How I look at 55. I'm considering a transplant next year to get to a Norwood 1. I was told I was a perfect candidate for before and after patient. Strong donor area, and my hair is not thinning. End quote. So here's my immediate response. If that's what you want to do, just do it. My wife and I made a video talking about the concept of men who are older and get hair transplants. What's funny is, and those of you who've been watching me for a while, you might be surprised to hear me say this, but if I was going to suggest that any man gets a hair transplant, it'd be a guy who's already older. Because at that point, if he still has enough hair to get a hair transplant, and notice how I said that, enough hair to get one, not where you're losing your hair so much you need one. No, the whole concept is if you're 21 years old and already here at Norwood 4, you're not a good candidate for a hair transplant, because if your hair loss is that aggressive so early in your life, well, a hair transplant is only going to patch things up for a while, but likely you're going to keep balding and you have to keep going back. But if you're a guy who's already in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, well, and as you all know, post age 35, because for the most part, if you've still got a full head of hair, and I should put that in quotation marks, a full head of hair at age 35, you're not likely to aggressively lose hair anytime soon. It may slowly happen over the rest of your life, but you're not going to aggressively lose hair after 35. At least that's not usually the case. But for a guy who's already well past 35 and wants to do it, if I was going to be endorsing a hair transplant for anyone, it would be a guy like in this comment. But anyway, my wife and I made a video when we found out that Bruce Springsteen, who's either 69 or 70. He has about as much hair as I do, but again, he's like 69 or 70. He's like 30 years older than me, you know, and he's worth millions, tens of millions of dollars. You know, okay, I can get why he did the hair transplant. I mean, he wasn't aggressively balding, but he's got more money than he can ever spend, and he's really famous and a living legend. I can, in my mind, it makes more sense if you were gonna get a hair transplant, it would be for a guy who still has most of his hair and is older. Why not? For me, I still wouldn't do it. Let's say that I keep all of my hair from age 38, and now I'm 50. And I'm like, well, man, at this rate, if I just get a little touch up of a hair transplant, I can have an even better hairline. And for the next, couple of decades, or the last couple of decades of my life, I'll be able to, basically it's like hair insurance. But I personally still wouldn't do it, because for me, it's part of my identity to age in real time and to be humbled by the experience. And ultimately, I think a lot of you know, I kind of have a hair death wish. So, because once it gets to the point where I'm not obligated to have a real hairstyle anymore, I can just always shave my head, and then no one can say, well, why are you going to shave your head? Because you can still grow hair, There were some other comments that came in, though, that people had posted on that guy. I want to read those. Please know that I have not done any practice for this video. This is all just me looking at these. Here it is. Oh, he left another comment after that saying this. Quote, I work in a younger environment in the IT industry. It's important for me to look young at my age. Anything that would give me an edge in this game. It's difficult for an older person to compete in a youth-oriented environment. I don't want to be left out as a dinosaur. So, and I appreciate your honesty and sharing that's how you feel. CJ Zanders, one of my favorite subscribers and viewers, because he definitely thinks a lot like I do, as far as, emotional intelligence point of view, as far as not seeing yourself as a victim, but instead choosing to find a way to be victorious. He and I are definitely on the same wavelength. And here's what he says. I haven't even read his comment until now, but the fact that he left a comment makes me want to read it. That's how much I respect CJ Zanders. Quote, the Bosley jerks are saying that you're a great candidate because they know you're older and have the money to pay for the treatment. They told me at age 28 that my hair was going to keep receding if they didn't put me on finasteride. Lo and behold, I'm 30 and still a Norwood 1. You're fine. You don't need a hair transplant at 47. It won't make you sell more units of anything or crush the competition. If it boosts your morale, then maybe. End quote. So what's funny is I had no idea what these comments said before I started filming this. But again, CJ Zanders and I are on the same wavelength. We're on the same page. When it comes to hair transplants, again, it makes more sense if you're going to do it later on, because you don't have as aggressive hair loss as other people, and you're going to most likely have the expendable income to spend on that. But ultimately, whatever kind of hair loss fix that we're looking for, whether we're talking about taking some kind of drug or getting a hair transplant, whatever other kind of options that you would consider, it ultimately comes down to this. Do you psychologically need it? Forget about do you physically need it. Because if we're talking about a hair transplant, no one needs a hair transplant. Most of the men across the world are worrying about whether their families will be torn apart by war or starvation or whatever it is. No one needs a hair transplant. But as far as deciding psychologically if you need one, that's always up to the individual. I talk a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. A lot of people, in those countries that are torn by war and starvation, they're at the bottom. They're just trying to survive, not be killed or not starve to death. And then we've got more developing countries where your life's not actually in danger, but you have to work really hard and you're still maybe not going to be able to make that much money, and so on. The further you get up the pyramid, though, that sort of changes your perspective to where I'd say if you're a pretty lucky man if you're in a situation to even be able to consider, should I get a hair transplant? You are a very blessed human being that's something you even get to perceive as your problem. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to even be experiencing hair loss, to think, oh, I need to fix this, because that means there are so many problems you don't have in your life. But ultimately, if psychologically you need that hair transplant to be confident, and that helps you feel more successful at your job, I don't see why not, if that's what you need. But for me personally, if I were in that situation, and because I do mainly work with younger people than me, but even if I was balding, I think for me, I'm like, I'm going to shave my head and now I'll be cool and just maybe grow the beard if anything. Because I think that's really that's a hipper look anyway. Even for younger people, I think that's the most edgy look and most attractive and masculine look anyway. But it's about you doing what's right for you. People get their confidence from different places. If that's what you need to be confident, I'm actually going to say do it. It's your call. Comments right here.